If you're constantly looking forward to the weekend, vacation, retirement, or something else, then something's off. It's not a work problem, it's a life design problem. And what do I mean by that? For most of my life, the people I've worked with have, called Monday dreaded Mondays. Hump day was Wednesday. Can't wait till Friday. Can't wait till the weekend. Can't wait for a vacation to come up or some exotic getaway or looking for a better wife or a better life or a better job. And it's always looking for that next thing to make you happy. And so that's what I want to talk about. What's my qualification for this? I don't know. Maybe I don't have one, but I am 60 years old. I've been a CEO for 25 years of a data analytics company. I've hired and managed and worked with hundreds of people through the years. I've seen firsthand what makes people happy. I've been able to build a culture that I think is a good culture, that have a lot of employees that have been there 10 plus years, and seem to like working there. So I just wanted to share that with you guys, and hopefully, in a way, spread what I've seen and help, put a different perspective on things. So yeah, my goal is to just put a video out there that, helps you build a life that you don't have to escape from, one that you love living, that you're looking forward to each day, and not looking for that next thing out there. I'm not talking about escaping responsibility, escaping stress. We're all going to have that, but you do want to limit that to a certain extent, learn how to deal with it, but also to come at it from a positive mindset and not just dread. I mean, a life where you're not looking to escape, but where things are aligned and where you're feeling accomplishments and you're feeling, worthwhile goals. I mean, a life where the parts of your life are aligned and not constantly seem to fight and conflict with each other. Most people don't fail at life. They kind of drift in and out of it, and it's kind of one decision at a time. There's not some big catastrophe that you're failing at or whatever, but just these small decisions, and eventually you look around and all of a sudden you feel like this heavy weight of stress on you. Again, over time, what I've seen both in my own life and also in managing and looking at others and watching, how they're going from their day to day, it's not an effort issue; it's an alignment issue, and it's also a mindset issue. When people feel burned out or restless, it's usually because one or two core areas of their life have become out of whack. So you're spending too much time on something. Maybe you're spending too much time at work and you're somewhat of a workaholic and everything revolves around work. In other cases, everything revolves around the kids and kids' activities. Times, you're too involved with health and you're going to the gym constantly and working out, and you're ignoring the other areas of your life. So again, in my own life, when I felt this way, instead of just blowing everything up, chasing different motivations, I just asked myself, what areas of my life do I need to work on? And actually, I'm filming this right at the beginning of the year, so today's December 30th. We're getting ready to go into the new year. It's a good time to take an account of where are you now in your areas. I feel like there are six core pillars of life that, if you can focus on these things and keep yourself in good health, have a good feeling about where you are on these, then you'll be, well on your way to building a life that you love. The first and arguably the most important to me is purpose. Knowing, why you're living, what you're living for, and having meaning for that. For most people, a lot of people, that's your religion. In my case, it's the Christian faith and living for Christ and trying to live a life for Christ. And knowing that I have grace and I'm saved based on that. So, but for other people, I just got back from Nepal, and 82% of the people there, I think, are Hindu, and they had a different feeling of spirituality. But I saw firsthand that they had peace. A lot of people there had peace in their life and were happy, even though they have a lot less material possessions than we have here in the United States. So the first one is purpose. What is your purpose, and making sure that you have a purpose. The second for me is financial. And, this is everything having to do with financial. So it's, the work, that you're doing. It's your finances. Are you, is your goal to be financially free, have financial freedom, to have financial independence? What does that look like for you, and how do you feel you are on that quest for financial stability or financial freedom? The third is health. Your health and your fitness, your longevity. As I've, just turned 60, that's becoming even more important, and more of a focus. This could be diet, it's your exercise, it's, just how you feel, and what are you doing on a regular basis, to improve your health and feel good about your health. The fourth is relationships, your friend relationships, your family relationships, your work relationships. Do you have community? Do you feel like you have, folks around you, whether it's online, it's nice now that you have online, or is it, in your life that you can count on and that you can, um, really commune with. And so, I do feel like, we're put here on this earth to have relationships. And I mean, actually, I'm a person that's more of kind of comfortable being a loner and, being alone and do things on my own. And again, on my Nepal trip recently, as an example, I went by myself. There were three other guys in the group that I met when I was there. I'd never met them before in my life. And I thought I would just be fine, just me and the guide. But having these three other guys, it made the trip so much more enjoyable, so much fun. We just had a blast. Again, we had never met each other. Two of the guys did know each other, kind of, sort of, um, through one of the guys' wives. It was her hairdresser. But other than that, we didn't know each other, and we had the best time of our 3 week time, and it made the trip more fun having those relationships. And speaking of Nepal and trips and all that, adventure is another one. I think adventure and fun is a core pillar of life. What do you do? And it doesn't have to be some wild trip to Nepal. It could be just going, within your own area, finding a hiking trail to go on. It didn't have to be outside. It could be shopping somewhere. It could be, whatever you feel like. Go to a car show, go to a coffee and cars club, go to a flea market, whatever it is in your world that you're interested in. And this can go from teenagers up to, as as 90-year-old people. Find out what your adventure, what you like to do, and what is fun, and make sure that you are incorporating that into your life. And the sixth one, and for some people, this may be the most important one, is growth. And what I mean by that is self-help and your mental health, and making sure that you're focusing on you, from a mental perspective, not just on the health side and fitness, like we said earlier, but make sure that you're feeding your mental health through self-help, through, I mean, nowadays, between the podcasts and books online and Audible. Again, a lot of times, now, I walk or run during the day, and I'll listen to Audible books while I'm walking. So I'm actually, again, knocking out two things at one time. I'm walking on my fitness, working on fitness, and I'm also working on mental health by listening to positive messages and that sort of thing. Those are the six core pillars of life that I feel like, and when you have those aligned, then it feels good. It makes life feel worthwhile. When those six work together, you feel like you have life aligned. You still have stress, you still have to work hard. Those things don't change, but somehow it makes the working hard seem easier. I was mentioning my daughter the other day. We've been to Haiti a couple of times, and then again, I mentioned it several times. Went to Nepal. When you go to places like that, it's surprising how happy the people seem. Particularly in Haiti. Literally, folks are living in hut and one room huts or buildings with no electricity, no water, dirt floors. They have a sheet over the door is their door to get into their house, and they seem like the happiest people that I've ever seen in my life. Meanwhile, here, I'm not pointing fingers at people, and all of us have our ups and downs, but I see people that are going to, work, and they're complaining about work, and, oh, I got this terrible job, and then they get home and they're complaining about their house that they live in. It's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house with a white picket fence, and yet they're not happy with it. And I do think that it puts things in perspective when you go see how other people are living. And if we kind of look at it from that perspective, and I know it'll cause some controversy, and some people are gonna be like, you don't get it, or whatever. But if you work on these just individually, where you feel like you are on these 6 things, and you feel like you are, accomplishing them or moving forward on there, and you're aligned around a purpose, then I think you can have a much better chance of loving your life. And again, we're trying to build a life that we don't feel like we have to have an escape from. So if you're waking up, like I said earlier, and you're, hating the day and not looking forward to Mondays and not looking forward to going to work, um, looking for retirement, that's the kind of life we want to change that and make it in such a way that you're not living a life that you have to escape from, but a life that you love living. So here are 3 simple steps just to get started on building a life that you love. First, design your life on purpose. Have a purposeful design for that. When I was probably one of the biggest things that changed my life was back when I was in college. I was like 18 or 19, just felt like a ton of stress. So, I was in that mode of wasn't really sure if what I wanted to do. I was in college, but and I ran across a Zig Ziglar book, See You at the Top, and I read that book, and actually ended up I actually went to one of his seminars in Atlanta, and saw him speak. He actually came in. I was in the back row, and he came in and was standing right beside me as they were introducing him, and he's like jumping up and down, getting pumped up, and then he runs up to the stage and does what Zig Ziglar, for those of y'all have ever seen him. Um, but got a couple of his tapes, how to close a sale and some sales books. But I mean, the See You at the Top is one that I think all of us, if you haven't read it, you can get it online at Amazon or whatever. And it just does a great job of, number one, teaching you your worth and your importance. It also is a great book on teaching how to set goals. I've read a lot of different goals, books on your purpose and all that, but Zig Ziglar's book is still, I think, one of my favorites. And I'll go over in a later video how, what he talks about and how to set goals. But having that kind of purpose and setting those goals and then measuring those on a daily, weekly, monthly basis is the main premise around that. So have a purpose, and purposely design your life in these 6 areas we've talked about. From what is your purpose? What is your goals around? What are your goals around your finances and your work, your health goals, your adventure, fun type inspirations? Make sure that you're scheduling those times as well. Your mental health. All these are things that are going to work together. A life you love starts with one question. When you're doing something, you ask yourself, does this fit in with the life that I desire? If it does, then you do it and try to improve on it. If it doesn't, then try to change it. So, what do I mean by that? I mean, if you literally are doing a job that you hate, my son asked me the other day, I was telling you kind of a little bit about this video I want to do. And he was like, I mean, you're CEO of a company now. You've done this for 25 years. You're your own boss, which is not actually true, by the way. If you're a CEO, then you're actually working for all your employees, and you're also working for all your customers. So, but that's a whole nother subject. But I get the point. I don't have potentially some boss that's that's inferior or not as smart and is telling you things that you disagree with. I've been there. You're not working at some assembly line where it's like a sweatshop. And I've worked as a dishwasher, did that 2 different jobs, worked in retail. So I mean, I've been there and done all that stuff a long time ago. So he was asking, did you ever have a job you hated? And again, as you get older, you'll learn that you kind of start forgetting things. So, I mean, but the way I remember things, I don't remember any job that I hated. Like I always, I look forward to working. I look forward to going to the job, usually because I enjoyed the people I worked with and I wanted to interact with them. So, when I was working as a dishwasher, I enjoyed working out. I mean, I enjoyed interacting with the busboys and the different servers. I didn't call them servers back then, but I enjoyed that part. I mean, did I like being, knee deep in garbage and sweeping that all stuff out every night? No, I can't say I love that, and the smell when I got home at midnight. No, I mean, I didn't enjoy that part, but I did enjoy the I mean, I did my best at that job, and there was something, just fulfilling about taking a bunch of dirty dishes, and then they come out and they're all they're all clean, and you're keeping up with the night and all that. So, at the law firm, there were attorneys. It was a huge law firm, 60 attorneys that were just on you, and they were high stress and demanding and not nice sometimes. But I liked interacting with the secretaries and the paralegals, and I've had a lot of friends there, and I still have some friends from there when I worked there. So that was something I look forward to going to work. There were some days actually. I went to school in downtown Atlanta, and the law firm was right next to it. And there were some days I would actually go down and I would skip school and I would go to work just because I enjoyed the work. And again, for a lot of people that's a good example. At the law firm, a lot of people were in the same mode I talked about earlier. Hey, this is where I first saw this really was, I hate Mondays. Oh, it's Monday. Oh, blah, 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 blah. Oh, now it's hump day. We're almost to Friday. And then Friday would roll around and it was Friday the weekend. And then the weekend they would just hammer themselves and come in on Monday and look like death warmed over. And it's like, okay. I just didn't understand that because I never felt that way. I never, the weekends are great, but Mondays were good too. I got to start the week again and I was working, going to school, all that, and I had these long days at that time. I was exhausted, but I didn't I didn't like look to escape it. I was living in that moment. And I think that's what a lot of times we miss is not living in the moment. Again, so first, intentionally design the life that you want and work on those areas that you need to improve on that you're not satisfied with. Second, protect your energy. And energy has a lot to do with how we feel. When your energy fades, everything feels heavier. This gets infinitely harder as you get older. Trust me. I'm only 60. For a lot of folks, that may be you're ancient. But when your energy is fading, when you don't feel good, everything feels heavier, everything feels harder. And so you have to protect that. And there's different components of that. The health and fitness is a big one, having a purpose is a big one, and your mental health is a big one. So if you work on those areas, then that'll help your energy. And also again from the fitness perspective, getting out and finding those things to stay active. Even if it's just walking through your neighborhood, if it's going on hikes, if it's going to the mall and walking around the mall, it could be as little as that, or it could be signing up for 5Ks and going doing 5Ks. If you've never done a race like that, and you can walk them, you can run them, but to sign up for a 5K, you go there and it's just fun. I mean, there's usually music playing, and they're doing all kinds of just motivational things. And then when the race starts off, you're gonna get a medal, you're gonna get a shirt. As a community, it can be fun, and you can walk them. It's 3.1 miles just for a 5K. So that's just one example of how do you keep your energy up, and you need to move and be out and about to do that. And if you don't do that, it's gonna make life a lot harder. And you don't need perfection with this. Again, I mean, you can just walk, 100 yards down into your neighborhood. Walk within your house. I mean, just get up and move, but do things to improve your energy. And part of that's gonna be your diet as well. So just ultimately, energy turns into enjoyment. Just keep that in mind. I mean, if you're just exhausted and tired, and I think a lot of times we feel tired, it's not because you physically feel tired. You're like, I got enough sleep last night. Why am I so tired? It's the mental part as well. So, if you're mentally healthy and if you feel like you have a purpose, then you're going to increase your enjoyment. And the third tip is keep your curiosity alive. And this really speaks more towards the mental part, but stay curious. Nowadays there's really no excuse. There's infinite number of free articles online. You can get them on your phone, that you can continually stay curious about whatever topic that's of interest to you. If you like cars, you can read about cars. If you like knitting, you can read about knitting. If you like politics, there's way too much politics. But just stay curious in whatever interests you. And by keeping curious, that is going to improve your mental health. It's going to improve your energy. It's going to improve your purpose. And just, in a nutshell, people that love life, they want to keep learning. They just want to continually be learning and learning new things and be interested in new things. And so that curiosity will help you. And it helps me. I mean, I still like to read a lot. I just love learning things, love learning new things. And the other part of the curiosity, again, I mentioned this Nepal thing several times, but I literally like decided to get back into motorcycles, which you'd be astounded, or maybe you wouldn't, but the number of people that are in their 50s and 60s that did like I did, which rode motorcycles a ton, quit in your 20s, and then all of a sudden you're 60 and decide, I want to start doing this again, which makes no sense, but a lot of us are doing it. And so, at the time, so I decided to sign up for I just want to do like a a guided trip somewhere. So I called this company in Oregon, and they had this trip in Oregon. I'm in the States, in the United States, and they're like, well, by the way, we have a trip to Nepal, and we have it on sale now because we need another person to fill out the trip. And so I'm like, Nepal? Yeah, I didn't know where that was even. It's actually almost exactly halfway around the world from where I am here in Nashville. And so I signed up for this thing, and all three, as I signed up for it, you kind of sign up and you pay the money. And so you're like committed, by the time I bought the airfare and the trip. And, but again, it really did raise my curiosity and challenged me. And it was extremely uncomfortable. I just was like, am I biting off more like a chew here? They have these ratings, 1 through 5, and they said this is a 3 or 4 as far as skill level. I hadn't ridden a dirt bike in like 30 some odd years. And this is going to be riding it in extreme circumstances with cliffs and all these things. And it was extremely uncomfortable, but it was so fulfilling doing it. It ended up working out. There was one guy that actually had to leave early because it was tough, but it checked off all those boxes from a curiosity standpoint and fulfilling standpoint. It got me out of my comfort zone more so than I have in maybe ever, but certainly in a long, long time. And it was definitely worth it. Again, those are the 6 pillars. Those are the 3 tips. And, if you can do all these things, you'll build a life that you enjoy. You'll build a life that you don't feel like you need an escape from. And that's what we're trying to do here. That's what I'm trying to do here. Make life more enjoyable. There's so many people my age that they're just trying to build a life until they get to retirement. And I've never been that way. I'll go back to the law firm and wrap this thing up. But, when I worked at the law firm, there were 2 attorneys there. One was John Sibley. He was 98 years old. He was Coca-Cola's general counsel back in the 50s, 1950s. It's hard to believe we're about to come up on the 2050s, but he was 98 years old and went to the office, couple 3 times a week. And then there was also William Meadows, and Mr. Meadows was in his early 90s, like 93. He'd go in the office 2 or 3 days a week, and I saw these guys, and I got to interact with them several times, and they were just sharp as a tack from a mental perspective. And it just made me think like there's something to this. If you still have a purpose and you're still using your mental um, capacities, and still curiosity and all those things I've just talked about, then you know why retire? This whole retirement thing, I think I want to rethink it. And that's really for me. When I saw Mr. Meadows, and I actually took him home on his birthday. His birthday, I believe, was December 7th. Mine is December 9th. And I took him home one day. I was talking to him, and I just realized I want to be like that when I'm 93. I want to still be curious. He was asking me all kinds of questions about what I wanted to do, and it just really impressed upon me. And it just made me feel like, you want to have that purpose. And it doesn't have to be continue to work. I mean, he was a lawyer and he continued to work as a lawyer, but whatever that thing is, you want to continue to use your mental capacities, keep your energy up, all the things I just talked about. And if you don't do that, I think you are still living a life that you're going to escape from. And retirement isn't necessarily the escape that you think it's going to be. That's how I feel anyway. So I'm keeping going. And the goal is to build a life that you actually love to live right now. I want to do it now, and want to love my life. If we do all those things, we're going to win the game. We'll win the right game and finish well. And that's the ultimate goal.